What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Must start and avoid running backs for week 10. I'll be taking a look at every single game this week, going over the backfield situation for each team. As always, if I don't answer your specific start-sit question, then you can see my exact rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. Alright, week 10, and this video goes up on Fridays, so the Chargers and Raiders have already played, and we have 6 teams on bye: Denver, Houston, Jacksonville, New England, Philly, and Washington. This is the biggest bye week on the season, so you might need to rely on some bench players this week. So let's start things off with Ravens at Bengals. This game has a 44-point over-under, with the Ravens currently 10-point road favorites. Don't see that too often. 10-point road favorites. On the Bengals side, Mixon has 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games, yet he still hasn't been over 16 fantasy points in a single game all season, and he now faces a Ravens run defense that's allowed the second lowest yards per carry in the league. So a flex play at best for Mixon. For the Ravens, it's pretty much the same as always. Ingram is a touchdown-dependent running back too. No other running back in the backfield is usable. They're just not getting enough volume. This is a great matchup. Teams tend to skew extremely run-heavy when they face the Bengals. They also rank 28th in rush defense DVOA and last in yards per carry allowed to running backs. Probably a big reason why teams skew so run-heavy against them. Ingram will still need to score a touchdown to be relevant, like always, but he's got a pretty decent shot to do so given their implied total. Next game is Bills at Browns, and this game has a really low 40-point over-under. I believe that's the lowest on the week, with the Browns as 3-point home favorites. For the Bills, Singletary took over as the lead back last week, getting 20 carries and 4 targets, a huge workload for Singletary. He'll be a game script proof, so not dependent, game script proof running back 2 moving forward, especially in this matchup. The Browns are softer against the run game than they are the pass, ranking 30th in yards per carry allowed. So Singletary should definitely be in lineups, and Gore's really only going to be a guy you can use in like 16-team leagues. No receiving upside, pretty inefficient, and getting a lot less volume than he was when Singletary was out. On the Browns side, we have some uncertainty. So Kareem Hunt returns this week, so we're really just guessing how this split is going to work out. I personally believe that Chubb's snaps will not change at all. I mean, maybe he gets like a few less, but in general, on average, I don't think they're going to change all that much. He's been playing 60 to 65% of snaps, while Hilliard has been getting around 40%. And since I see them using 2-back sets a few times, I don't think they're going to come out and run 2-back sets every play. But I think we're going to see maybe 10% of snaps they come out with both running backs on the field. Because of that, Chubb shouldn't really lose any snaps. Like I said, Hilliard's getting 40%. So if you give those to Hunt and then you add on a few more snaps where they're both on the field, Chubb can still get his 60 to 65%. The question will be the volume split. Chubb is currently seeing 20 to 25 touches a game, and while that might go down, a handful at most is probably what it'll be, so he's still going to be a running back 1, especially this week. Teams have been running the ball a ton against the Bills recently, and they really haven't been able to stop him. So as home favorites, this is a really good spot for Chubb. And if we give Hunt Hilliard's touches plus around a handful of Chubb's, then he should get around 10 touches, which is like a low-end flex play. It's still not great. He'd still kind of have to score at that point, but it's not a terrible play. So if you've got, 2 running backs on bye and you just need someone for the flex, it's not a horrible play putting Hunt in there. Although I will say I would prefer to just wait a week and see what the split is. Falcons at Saints is next. Should be a really good game if the Falcons can keep up. The game has a 51-point total, and the Saints are 12.5-point home favorites. On the Falcons side, Ito Smith returned from his concussion, but then he missed practice from a neck injury. So I don't really know if he's going to play this week because it's a neck injury. I mean, you don't really know the recovery time for that. But it's not like any of you really own Ito. You're not looking to play him. The only thing it would be a possible boost to Freeman. So if Ito misses, Freeman does get a little bit of a boost, but it doesn't really affect him all that much. He did have 8 receptions in the game before the bye, talking about Freeman there. So we've seen in the past that they are very willing to give him a ton of dump offs in games that they're losing to try and like catch up in the game. And that could very well be the case this week, given that they're, a 1.5 point underdogs. And it should be a high scoring game. So he's got receiving upside. He's got touchdown upside. I'd say he's a solid running back 2. Definitely wouldn't call him a running back 1, but someone you should probably have in lineups. And he does become better as you move towards full PPR. So better in full, average, I guess, in half PPR, and not as good in standard. For the Saints, the Falcons, as we all know, are just a terrible defense, but maybe they'll be a little better coming off their bye with a little bit more time to prepare. I doubt it, but I guess it's possible. Kamara's back, so he is a high-end running back 1 once again. And Murray can actually be used in the flex. I don't expect them to just give all the work to Kamara right coming back from injury. And they know that Latavius Murray is good. He can fill that Mark Ingram role in the offense, like we said he would. You don't have to play Murray. It's not like the last few weeks where it was an obvious play. But with 6 teams on bye, if you've got Latavius Murray, put him in the flex because he's still got a ton of touchdown upside. And this is a really good offense, and it's not like they're going to give all of the carries and all the targets to Kamara because he is still coming off of an injury. Next game is Lions at Bears, and this one has a really low 42 point over-under, which is much lower than my model has it projected at, and the Bears are actually 2.5 point home favorites. For the Lions, I wouldn't start any of their running backs. Ty Johnson will get the most touches, but they'll be really inefficient and his scoring chances are going to be really low. Then McKissick will see some receiving game work, but not enough to be relevant outside of really deep leagues. On the Bears side, David Montgomery has taken over the backfield. He's been playing over 72% of the snaps, averaging 24 touches a game over the last 2 weeks, and he's been getting all of the goal line work. This is also a solid matchup. The Lions are 27th in yards per carry allowed and have been especially attackable on the edges, which is where Montgomery likes to bounce his carries. It doesn't feel great trusting a player in a Trubisky-led offense right now, but Montgomery is a running back too because of the volume and the matchup. Next game, Giants at Jets, and this one has a 43.5 point total with the Giants 2.5 point road favorites, although it's really not on the road since they both play in the same stadium. So kind of stinks for the Jets getting a home game that's not really a home game, but you can't feel too bad for them. They're going to lose a lot of games anyways. This one's pretty easy to break down. Start Saquon, start Bell. As long as Bell is playing, he had the MRI. I guess he's a little banged up. If he's a surprise inactive, then you should go pick up Ty Montgomery. You might even want to just pick up Ty Montgomery if you have Le'Veon Bell, just in case he's out this week, or just in case in the future, if he were to go down, if you are relying on Bell, Montgomery is the direct backup. But I expect Bell to play, so you'd start Bell, start Saquon. Kansas City at Tennessee is the next one. And this game has a 48.5 point total with Kansas City 3.5 point road favorites. Mahomes is returning this week, and while he's not 100%, I don't expect him to look all that different. So basically, in your mind, view Mahomes this week as like 98% of what he usually is. He should look the same with a tad bit less mobility, but not enough for it to really make a difference. For Kansas City, Damian Williams is a running back 2. He's now fully recovered from his injury, and McCoy has been benched for his fumbling. The snaps went 43 for Damian, 10 for Darrell, and 6 for McCoy last week, and that was Damian's 6th career game with 60% or more of the offensive snaps, and he's now averaging over 25 fantasy points per game in those weeks. He doesn't get a great matchup against the Titans. They rank 2nd in rush defense DVOA, but they've allowed a league average yards per carry, and it's not like you can stack the box in a Mahomes-led offense. I'd leave McCoy on your bench, and I don't think Darrell should really be owned outside of very deep formats. And again, Damian Williams is a running back too. For the Titans, it's a good matchup for Derrick Henry. He's at home. The point spread doesn't have them winning, but it suggests the game should remain competitive. So that's a positive for Derrick Henry, knowing his splits when they win and when they lose. Kansas City is 30th in rush defense DVOA and 29th in yards per carry allowed to running backs. So if you've got Henry, you're starting him as usual. Cardinals at Buccaneers is the next game, and this game has a 52.5 point over-under. Could be a shootout like we saw with Seattle and Tampa Bay last week. The Bucs are currently 4.5 point home favorites. On the Cardinals side, we have a mess and just a situation that no one has the answer to. So if anyone tells you they know exactly what the split's going to be between DJ and Drake, they're lying. They could get lucky and just be right at the end of the day, but no one knows for sure. Edmonds is expected to miss a few more weeks, and he can be dropped in all formats, besides Dynasty, I guess. But the split between DJ and Drake is unknown. We haven't received any word, and even if we do receive word, it's not like Kingsbury has been completely honest with us to this point. My guess is that it's roughly an even split, with DJ getting slightly more work, maybe 60-40 split in opportunity. The problem for these guys is the opponent. Tampa Bay still ranks first in defensive rush DVOA and first in yards per carry allowed. And since the Cardinals aren't exactly team established the run, most of their production is likely to come through the air. Both are good receiving backs and targets are more valuable than carries, so that's certainly fine, but I'd view both of them as flex options with all the uncertainty. They could both perform as running back twos, they could both perform as not even starting options. I don't fully know, so I think both of them are good in the flex, nothing more than that for the uncertainty. On the Bucs side, it looks like Ronald Jones will finally get a chance to start. He outsnapped Barber 42-29 last week, and Bruce Arians came out and said he's earned the right to start and he's earned the right to play more snaps. I'm not sure what took him so long to say that, but I probably shouldn't be surprised about the decision making of a 2-6 team. Jones is the only running back you can start, and I think he makes for a nice low-end running back too. Dolphins at Colts is the next one, and this game has a 44-point total with the Colts 10-point home favorites. For the Dolphins, Mark Walton is suspended 4 games for violating the team's personal conduct policy, which means we get to watch featured back Kalen Ballage. Ballage is terrible though, so you should only be playing him in the flex, and it would only be if you have multiple players on bye. The Colts have an average defense in terms of rush defense metrics, rush defense, yards per carry allowed, but most of the production against them came when Darius Leonard was out, and he's back now, and he's a great run defender, so this is not a defense you should be targeting running backs against, especially as 10-point road underdogs. So if you don't have to start Ballage, I wouldn't. On the Colts side, this is a dream matchup for Marlon Mack. He continues to dominate the backfield touches, and they should be able to do whatever they want on offense. So you can start him as a running back 1. Panthers at Packers is next, and this total has dropped to 46.5. I believe it opened at roughly 48. The Packers are 5-point home favorites at the moment. For the Panthers, always start Christian McCaffrey. For the Packers, we saw the floor with Aaron Jones last week, and he's only playing half the snaps. So like I've said, he's got crazy upside, but he's playing half the snaps, and now Devonta Adams has returned. So he's going to have a very low floor moving forward. This matchup is great though, so I expect him to have a good game. The Panthers rank 32nd in rush defense DVOA and 26th in yards per carry allowed. So especially as a home favorite with a relatively high total. It's not crazy high, but it's a good total. He should be viewed as roughly like a low-end 1 to a high-end running back 2. For Jamal Williams, well, he's also playing roughly half the snaps, being used heavily in the red zone. So you could start him as a flex option. He's got a little bit less upside than Aaron Jones because they do prefer to use Aaron Jones a little bit more. But if you need a flex, Jamal Williams can be used there. Next, we have the Rams at the Steelers, and this game has a 44-point over-under with the Rams 3.5-point road favorites. This game used to be easy to break down, but that's no longer the case. On the Rams side, Gurley seems to have a 20-touch cap, and he's been far less efficient than he has been in recent years. He won't be worth starting unless he scores a touchdown, especially on the road against a solid Steelers defense. I have him ranked as a mid to low end running back 2, but I don't love it. Malcolm Brown is trending towards playing, but we'll just have to wait and see if he's active. If he returns, then you can't really start him or Henderson. If you were to miss, then you could play Henderson as a flex in deeper formats, but I'd prefer it if you had a different option. For the Steelers, I expect James Conner to play this week, although I thought he could play through the injury last week too, so who really knows. If he returns, then he's the only running back you really want in the backfield, and you could start him as a running back too. If he's out, then Samuels could be used in the flex in non-standard formats, and I'd stay away from Trey Edmonds. He had a nice week last week, but he's not going to be involved in the receiving game, and he's going to need a touchdown. And let's be honest, what are the odds Trey Edmonds scores a touchdown? Sunday Night Football will be Vikings at Cowboys, and the game has a 48-point over-under with the Cowboys currently 3-point home favorites. This should be a really good game, and it's an easy one to break down. Start Zeke, start Dalvin Cook. Monday Night Football will feature another great game, Seattle taking on the 49ers, and this game has a 46.5-point over-under with the 49ers 6.5-point home favorites, which to be honest doesn't seem like that great of a line at all, but I guess Vegas doesn't believe in primetime Russell Wilson in a season where he's the MVP. For Seattle, Carson is a volume-based running back 1 to running back 2. I'd have him ranked like 11 to 14. That's kind of the range I'd view him at. He's getting a ton of work on the ground, and the matchup is a bit brutal, especially as a road underdog, but we all know the Seahawks are going to run the football regardless. So it doesn't matter if they're losing the game, doesn't matter if the matchup's hard, they're going to run the ball. So he can still be started in all formats. For the 49ers, they continue to feature Coleman in the red zone while splitting the touches between Breida and Coleman between the 20s. That makes Coleman a running back 2 because of the touchdown upside, and Breida more of a flex option since he'll likely need a long run if he's going to score. So that should be everything you need answered at the running back position for week 10. If you have any more questions that were not answered in this video, just look at my rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that's the end of this one. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? And if you're new here, how about subscribing to the channel? But thanks for watching.